I wanted to say one more thing here, just to piggyback on the video that I'm putting up right before this one. When the divorce starts, and again, they're not all this way, okay? So I'm giving some credence to that. They're not all this way. But again, I bring it up because I have a friend who's going through it as well. And many of the men that I talk to, well, and women for that matter, because I'm fascinated by the topic of divorce now. And what happens after, and how do people rebuild, and what comes next, right? It's um, it's just a fixation for me. I know for most people it's not, but when you've gone through it, it's quite exceptional, and it's very fascinating how things shake out, and then rebuilding after that. Okay, so because you're probably going to go through it. If you're married, you're probably going to get a divorce. That's not my hope, but it's more probable than it's not. Okay, so what I found fascinating is that, and I won't go into the personals of mine, how it happened. It was very eye-opening, though, quite amazing how it went down, and if you leave the house because she asks you to, she wants you to, she wants a break, or maybe she just tells you, I want a divorce, whatever it is, and you move out, and then you get the paperwork, the divorce paperwork, and you'll probably go to temporary orders. Again, if you can figure it out amongst yourselves, and I do know people that do this, or have done this. They don't go to court for this stuff. They sit down, they figure it out. This isn't working. They put everything on paperwork. They agree to something. You turn your paperwork into the courts, and you figure it out, right? Or you have your divorce court paperwork done. You've gone through a brutal divorce court. But then you start realizing over time, not everybody, but many, that divorce math doesn't math. It doesn't work. Sometimes you have to switch days with your kids. Sometimes, what's very interesting, I find is very funny, actually, is that as a man, if I decide, well, this isn't working for me, I can't afford this child support, I can't afford this spousal support, that doesn't matter. If you do not pay exactly what you're supposed to, you will suffer the wrath. But if that other person, let's say, decides that they're going to scrimp on your parenting time and they're not going to bring the kids on time or whatever, oh boy, this stuff happens. Ugh. And so, but there's no penalty for that, right? Anyway, all that to say, and I can already hear the criticism. Well, you couldn't go back to your house. You must have done something. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there doesn't have to be and hear me on this. There doesn't have to be any domestic violence. There doesn't have to be any fighting, anything crude or cruel or, you get what I'm saying. There doesn't have to be any reasons why you can't go home. Once you've left the house, per your spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse's requests or orders, here's what's interesting, and I've heard this a few times, so I know it's not just me. You're thinking, well, maybe we can work this out. So for now, of course you want your spouse to stay in the house. You want your kids to be there. They're taken care of. There's a roof over the home, over their heads. They have so nothing changes for them. Everything stays the same. So they get to sleep in their beds. They get to cook in their own kitchens. No one's staying in hotels. No one's staying with relatives. You get to ensure that your family's still being taken care of. And so, and I was talking to a pastor friend of mine about this right when this was all going down, and I was so distraught. I was like, well, what's going to happen? Where are they gonna? And he was just like, they've got a warm place to stay. They got beds to stay in. Nothing changes for them, right? And so I took some solace, and I really do mean that. I took some solace in that and some comfort in that. Well, my spouse is taken care of. She's at the house. my kiddos taken care of. Nothing's changing. There's no big sweeping changes for them, and that's what you want. You don't want these big changes. You don't want people to move across the country or move in with other people or stay in hotels. You don't want that. As a good husband and father, you don't want that, right? You want the stability. You want the consistency. While you're trying to figure things out, is this a divorce? Is this not a divorce? But I'm telling you that once you get to court and they tell you you can't go home to your house that they make you pay for, and there doesn't have to be a reason. There doesn't have to be a reason. And you'll be, I'm just saying this for the guys that are going to go through it. You'll be scratching your head, wondering like, well, I mean, I don't know. I pay for that house, and I don't abuse anybody. Why can't I go home? You will not understand it, and it will blow your mind. Okay? And so if this is starting for you, and this is how these, like let's say the temporary orders go, where they're like, nope, you got to move out, you got to find your way now. And it's very bewildering. It's very bewildering. And this is what they call being zeroed out, where you get zeroed out, where the whole thing comes down and you're just flatlined, right? Again, Lord have mercy on us all. And you'll be living in your car. You'll be living in your car because you still have to pay for them to live there. And so again, if this is happening for you, take comfort in that not any big sweeping changes are happening for your family while the divorce is going on. They get some consistency. Your kids need it. The consistency, they don't have to change everything, Later on, when you finally afford to get, after the divorce, and you finally afford to get your little apartment, ask me how I know, and you'll probably never own a home again. It's kind of funny how single mothers own exponentially more houses than single fathers. Why is that? Because they get to keep the house and you still have to pay them long after the divorce for many years. So dads, unless you just, this is the pinch that I'm finding, I could go make more money, but then I'd have less time with my child. And these are the options you have to weigh. I can go make more money, but I'll more than likely have less time with my child. I was out of town recently for some training. I was gone for a few weeks. And after about a week and a half of being gone, as much as I miss my kiddo, I easily see why guys settle for the bad dad schedule. Every other weekend, a couple times in the summer, a couple weeks in the summer. Every bad dad, they call it the bad dad schedule. Every other weekend and a few weeks in the summer. Totally see why it's a thing. And I see why most men settle for that. Because you have to work, you have to live, you have to try to rebuild yourself. If you ever want to marry again, women don't want to be with brokies. Women do not want to be with brokies. And so as a single father, and you're having to pay your ex, and you're trying to have parenting time, but you're working less because of it. It's a thing. So anyway, to try to end on a positive note here, if that's going on, at least recognize that, in my opinion, you're taking a bit of a high road in that the spouse that you're losing, if she gets to stay in the house and you have to leave and live in your car, I hate to say this because it sounds like real simp behavior, but I don't think so. She doesn't have to change her life very much, so she's still taken care of as long as that's possible. But more than that, your kid or your children get to be taken care of, and they have consistency, and that's what they need. It's not what you want, but it's what your kids need, is the consistency and the steady behavior. So it's not a bad thing fully. I mean, it's evil, but it's not completely wrong. Your kids benefit from it. Have a good one.